In this video, I'd like to do a bit of a deep dive on how we use the Inspect Element browser tool when using Oracle Apex. So for example, I'd like to show how I knew how to move this item over to this part of the region here, like I've done on this side. So to start off with, the browser tools themselves, if we hit F12 in Chrome, the typical shortcut key will bring up these browser tools. And we can have them in any particular position, but what I'm looking at today are the elements, which is basically the page underneath the hood, and this console option here, the ability to run commands. So first of all, what functions am I using to move this item? Well, there is a jQuery cheat sheet here in this website, and the commands I'm going to be using today are these manipulation commands. There's ways to move HTML around the page, and if we click on one of these options here, it takes us straight to the jQuery documentation where we can find out exactly how it's used and some examples. But back to my Apex environment. What is it that I'm moving in the first place? Well, I can right click on this item here and inspect the element, and I clicked on a particular radio group item, so I'm just seeing that particular item element. But I can go up the tree here and find there's the item name itself, but often that's wrapped around the label as well. So what we often do is find ourselves going all the way up to a container ID. And that's the ID of the item that we'd like to move somewhere. Where would we like to move it? Well, we can do the same sort of thing. We can right click up here and inspect the element and see that in our top of our region we've got a title area and an area for buttons, which is in this case is currently unused. So if I double click on here and grab that and copy it into my clipboard, if I do a find while I'm inside this elements area here, I can look for those as a selector. So there's an example of that in my page, which is inside my JavaScript. There's an item itself, and there's 3 references. So there's another reference over here where I've done something already. So if I was to take this item here, well actually I want the container, and hop over into the console, I can do $, and with the ID, so the hashtag means it's an ID value, which is what I've just grabbed here, an ID, and it finds it on the page. So I'd like to then rerun that and maybe move it to this position here. So what was it? This class here, this bunch of buttons. So there's a section of the region which is for header items, and there's a title and a set of buttons. So if I go back here and I want that item, I'd like to append to that class of buttons. So if I hit enter here now, it's moved it for me, but it's also moved it over here. It's done it twice because there's 2 lots of those particular classes. So how do I get more specific than that? Well, I can go to my report, see if there is a static ID, or set one if there isn't. So in this case it's ZZ, and I can check that out. I can go inspect this element here, and I can see that this label is part of this item and this entire region. And if I climb the tree here, I can see the top of the region, and there's my ID ZZ. So if I just refresh the page and try that again, hit up, I can add #ZZ. I'd like to move that item, append it to this particular region, this part of the region, and bang, it's moved. And if I want to do that every single time I open the page, I can copy that, go to my page properties, and paste it in execute when page loads. So when I refresh that entire page, it's there already. What else could I do with things like this? Well, I can inspect the region title here and maybe play around with the colour in situ. So, we've got a choice of colours here, so I can scroll down to something I like. Chocolate. I like chocolate. How do I make this appear each time? Well, that's the T region title is an identifying class of this. So down in my inline CSS, I can say T region title. Is that how it was formatted? No, with a capital R. It is case sensitive. And I'd like to set the colour to chocolate each time. And voila. Quick lesson on how to use the Inspect Element tool to play around with what we see live, as well as experiment with our console commands, which can be executed as JavaScript within the page. Happy apexing!